Now, call me skeptical, Mr. Deputy President, but given the track record of this government on privatizing public assets and services, this sounds to me like fattening up the calf for slaughter. Put all the valuable assets in one place to make it attractive for a commercial buyer. Right. One can only conclude that moves to do this are all about furthering the government's privatization and sell-off agenda. Yeah, the Treasurer's second reading speech stated, and I quote, amending the Transport Administration Act to support the consolidation of transport asset ownership and development of FTAHI by optimizing the existing transport asset base to enable a more effective, efficient, and commercial approach to the management of transport assets, particularly property. We know that this government is addicted to privatization. I don't think the Treasurer has ever met an asset that he wouldn't want to sell. The current trend is to try and trick the people by leasing public assets to private corporations for an undisclosed amount and for a long period of time. And that will mean that not a single person in this Parliament will live long enough to see if they actually revert back to public hands. And we know public transport, an essential service, is at the top of their agenda. I was actually really interested to read the Australian Financial Review just a few weeks ago, which included an interview with our long-suffering Transport Minister, the Honourable Andrew Constance. He stated in regards to public transport, and I quote, "They will be all private. In 10 to 15 years' time, government will not be in the provision of transport services. Shame. It will be all on demand, private sector driven, underpinned by innovation and technology." He went on to say, already every new train that we are bringing online, whether it is the metro train or light rail, are all private sector partnerships. I do, however, want to acknowledge the Minister on one point. I had the opportunity to catch the live stream of the Minister's speech to the Salesforce World Tour keynote with Mark Hawkins and special guests. To be frank, it looked more like some kind of a cult meeting than a conference, but it's not up to me to judge how the Minister spends his time. You really have to get alive. I do hope he's enjoying the soft toy. that Salesforce gifted him, and I will be looking out for that on his gift register. What did interest me most was one of the Minister's quotes. And this is what he said: "I want to make sure that the investments we are making today are able to cater for the needs for tomorrow. So we don't necessarily go and build a 6-lane freeway, given the changes we're going to see in terms of intelligent transport works. So we want to make wise investments." It indeed made me happy. I do acknowledge that interjection from Dr. Phelps. And on this note, I agree with the Minister that West Connects and North Connects are terrible decisions and not wise at all. There is no doubt that advances in technology offer many opportunities to improve public transport. But for the government to use this as an excuse to wash their hands completely of providing any public transport is pretty preposterous. Because this government is incapable of delivering well-planned integrated public transport infrastructure on budget, they just want to abrogate that responsibility altogether rather than face up to that fact and improve their performance. It is a responsibility of the government to guarantee the basic provision of efficient, affordable, and reliable public transport to its people. And that includes those living in most deprived and disadvantaged areas. Once you hand over to the private contractors and corporations, there is no guarantee that will happen, and people who need it most will be left behind. In essence, the privatization of public transport means shifting the responsibility of the provision to the private sector. Imagine an Uber-like system where a surge in demand means a surge in prices. And if you live in an area where there's not much demand, there's no public transport provisions at all. We are now even at a point where the privatization agenda dictates transport outcomes. Take the Sydney Metro, for instance. The East Hills and Western lines have more serious capacity issues than the Bankstown line. And there has been no explanation for how Sydney Metro will address this. We know that the Bankstown line was chosen simply because it was the easiest to break off and privatize. Unfortunately, with the privatization agenda at the forefront of these decisions, simpler, cheaper, and more effective solutions to increase capacity across the whole network are being neglected. The other issue about this ongoing and never-ending fragmentation of government departments is the difficulties this causes for people and organizations to work together to provide integrated outcomes. Yep, keep breaking up the public sector, and people will no longer be able to cooperate and collaborate and actually give the best outcomes for the community. It makes it much harder for the left hand to talk with the right hand when planning and delivering services.
No.
Order.
Right.
Even she's laughing.
We will get, at the end of the day, what we will get are expensive, undemocratic services, not open to public scrutiny, and not with the aims of providing good transport outcomes for our citizens. Contracts are being signed which will lock us into terms and conditions that are unable to be flexible or responsive as the needs and priorities change. Private transport companies are notoriously secretive in reporting on service quality and reliability, and this government wants to put them in charge across all our transport modes. This bill is about separating out the profitable and non-profitable parts of public transport. Over time, the private sector will be given the profitable bits, and taxpayers will be left with the liabilities, the contaminated land, and the so-called non-commercial assets. The Greens oppose the privatization of public assets and services. The Greens oppose this bill.
The Honourable Fred Nile.